Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hospitality Edge podcast. This podcast is meant to bring together what we think are two sides of the same coin, real estate and hospitality. Whether you are a current or aspiring short-term rental property manager, host, or real estate investor, you're in the right place. Dive in with us to uncover the captivating stories and golden nuggets from industry heavyweights, including leaders, operators, investors, syndicators, founders, and entrepreneurs. So thank you. Really, thank you for embarking on this journey with me. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast, and I promise I'll do my best to deliver value-packed episodes that hopefully will not just inform, but also help inspire the next generation of real estate and hospitality professionals. Truly yours, Sebastián Muñoz. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Hospitality Edge podcast, the podcast where we're bringing together what we think are two sides of the same coin, real estate and hospitality. And today I'm super excited to have Dany Papineau with me, a good friend. We've known each other for a few years now, a founder of We Chalet, a company that has taken a lot of force and presence in everything that has to do with nature, chalets. It's a marketplace, very, very exciting company. And just a very, very exciting individual as well. So, Dany, I'm very excited to have you on today. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for you. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. So, Dany, I'd like to start with just a brief, understanding of where you came from as far as this idea, this concept. I know you've traveled around since quite early. When you were 21 years old, you went and you lived abroad in Alberta. You became you then went on to become a producer of your own movie, and that went on to be a success and whatnot. But how do you end up in short-term rentals? How do you end up in vacation rentals, and how does that lead to We Chalet eventually?
Yeah, there's the long story and the short story. I'll try to do the shorter story, but yeah, I did not speak English. I'm French Canadian. I come from Quebec, Bromont, which is more the mountain ski area. So yeah, when I was 21, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life. I was studying civil engineering in Sherbrooke, and we went out west to Alberta to learn English for summer. It was supposed to be for 3 months. I ended up working in a ranch in Alberta, really like a touristic ranch. So it was my first time working in the touristic industry, and I ended up not staying there for 3 months, but for 2 years. Working in ski resorts in the winter, and as a ski instructor or a bartender and all these type of kind of jobs. And when I came back to Quebec after those 2 years, I've always wanted to work in films. So I did my auditions for the National School of Theatre in Montreal in English, and I wasn't that good, so I didn't get accepted. But my coach referred me to people on set to work as an extra and as a photo double for a lot of famous actors that won't name. But I did that for 2 years in Quebec. And at the time, there's a lot of Hollywood film shooting in town at the end of the 1990s, early 2000. And I took my money, went back to Vancouver, studied at the Vancouver Film School for a year. And at that school, it was an intensive 1 year acting program for film. And they were just like inciting us to create material based on a real life story. So I was like, oh, there's a lot of Quebecers that go out west. There's never a film been made on that. So I worked on a film, Two Frogs in the West, that took like 10 years of my life to do. And it was in all theaters in Quebec. It was I ended up, it's a long story, but yeah, financially it was like a startup. I had to self-finance the film with money from friends and family. But when you go to theater, it's a one-time deal. So we got pushed away because we had no budget to market the film. We got pushed away from theaters very quickly. So that launched me in a two-year period of self-marketing the film, doing all the deals with, Super Écran, which is like the HBO of like Quebec. It was in the Walmarts all over the province. It was on Air Canada, on the airlines. And financially, it brought me on pretty much the verge of bankruptcy. So I put our home for sale in 2012, and I asked my realtor, how, is there a way to still like rent our place when it's for rent? And so she told me about Airbnb in 2012 when it was not known. It was not in the media. Nobody was talking about it. I had no friends that knew what it was. Okay. Yeah. So I was like, this is awkward. There's going to be, strangers sleeping in my bed. So I kind of didn't want to do it for the first 3 months. I was like, oh, no. I opened my profile and I was like getting, and finally I got my first booking. It was $800, for Christmas. And people from Toronto coming to Montreal. I was like, okay, I'm going to my family. Let's try it. And that's what launched me into the adventure.
Wow, quite early on, as you were saying, before it was mainstream, and you quickly went into also the education space, and you had your own course, and you had a massive following. You still do, but I think back then it was like 35,000 people were following you with Airbnb Secrets. How do you make that transition? Like, how long were you just a host, after which you were like, okay, you know what, maybe there's something here that I can start educating others on? And tell us a little bit about that Airbnb Secrets phase of your life.
Yeah, it's just as a new host, and at the time there was no education on the market. There was no Facebook groups. There's barely anything on the market. And I started to experience all the bad stuff that you can hear about. Like people, I had 30 people party in my backyard on a Saturday night. Like they pretended they rented for 2 people, 30 people party. My neighbors started to freak out. I got my TV stolen once. I got some art pieces stolen. So at some point I was like, okay, this is kind of crazy. Like there's a lot of newcomers coming on the market. People don't know how it works. So I'm an actor, filmmaker. Why don't I create like an online course, airbnbsecrets.com, which I launched in 2015. And the pitch line for the media, because I learned how to market my film with the media, so which I'm still using some of these techniques with We Chalet. But the pitch line was like, broke filmmaker makes $200,000 plus on Airbnb. So the news became viral. And,
wow.
It became viral. It was like in Australia, it was in India, it was all over Quebec, and it was in France and all this stuff.
But what was that though? What was that? Was that an ad? Was it like something you just put out as a
6 months before I started collecting all the journalists around the world that keeps talking about Airbnb. Okay. So we contacted them all for about a week. I hired my friends and we went through the list. I had hundreds of people, because there's journalists that love to talk about short-term rental. And around 2015, it was emerging. So I started to contact them all. So all of a sudden, when the news starts to fire up, and it all of a sudden, and at that time, by the way, it was like when Uber and Airbnb was not taxed in Quebec or in Canada. So there was a lot of like talks and media about all that. So my news came out in that. Yeah. Which was a bad thing for me, because the next day launched me into like a tax audit with the government of Quebec and with tourism.
Of course it did.
Yeah. They all jumped on me. Everybody jumped on me. So it launched me in 2 directions, a taxation journey for like 3 years. They sent me a back tax bill of $62,000, which I fought we almost went to court. We did the arrangement out of court in the end. I was saying that platforms like Airbnb, like We Chalet, should be collecting the taxes and should be responsible of the back taxes. And and Uber was in Quebec. The government decided Uber was responsible for back taxes, because Uber had an office in Quebec, and for Airbnb, they didn't have any office. So they said, oh no, it's the host that should pay the back tax bill. Anyways, long story short, now We Chalet collects all these taxes. We collect the hotel tax, sales taxes, and everything. To
avoid the $60,000 tax bill to your hosts.
Yeah, but everything that was like saying that should happen, that was in 2015, is now in place in 2023. So I have that vision that that's where the market should go, and we're there today. Same thing
back
with legal.
then.
Yeah, that's like 8 years ago.
Crazy. Okay, so you have the list of all the journalists that talk about this thing. You send it to them. It goes viral. On one side, it's good because now you're known and your course takes off. But then you have this other issue going on. And so what happened with the actual community of Airbnb Secrets, and when do you also turn that page?
Yeah, well, Airbnb Secrets, the course took off, and at the same time, all the PMS systems started to emerge on the market around that time. So a lot of people started to get my course. I started to get approached to do property management for people, and at the same time, you got the guesties of this world that would contact me to try their solution early on, so that I could talk about it to my community. So I started doing property management and in old Quebec City and in Montreal, and also in the eastern townships, the mountain area where I'm from. And I started to realize that, it was easy to fill out a calendar in the city, but as soon as you were in the countryside, Airbnb was not strong. So that's where I discovered there was a need for a platform like We Chalet, because Airbnb at its core is an urban-centric platform. It's not a nature-centric platform. And on a global scale, no one's really taken care of optimizing this part of the market. So that's where came the idea for We Chalet.
Why would you say Airbnb missed on this? Like, why would you say it became an untapped market in terms of nature type of properties? Because I mean, it's not like they don't have any, but it's more so like they were just not putting enough attention, as you're saying, or as you saw it from the host point of view, in terms of you were putting these properties on Airbnb, but you were just not getting enough traction for them. So why do you think that was the case? And then, of course, when you started thinking about, okay, let's do this, it's a big thing to say, okay, let's go and compete, so to speak, with Airbnb. So I want you to walk us through that thinking process back then, and what made you decide that this was indeed an untapped opportunity, that you had indeed an advantage or something you could capitalize on. Like, how did that happen?
Well, there's different dynamics. Specifically in Quebec, we're French province first, and English is a second language. So Airbnb is not really French friendly at the start. And in parallel, the chalet market is very segmented. There's a lot of very archaic websites of chalet rentals in Quebec. They're kind of like Craigslist of chalets. They date from 1997, about approximately. There's more than 10,000 listings on these old websites. So, Quebec was a very good market for me to start We Chalet. And I would not take Airbnb on in Montreal, in the city, because it'd be too hard. They're too omnipresent. But in the countryside, they're not the king of that turf, And with the language barrier in Quebec and those archaic websites, it's an opportunity. Because what happens if you look at, there's more and more professional property managers like Angel Host that manage properties for others, and these professional property managers don't want to list on these archaic websites. So they will list on Airbnb, potentially Booking.com. Booking.com is not as strong in Quebec. There's VRBO, same thing, not as strong in Quebec. But for them, where's the platform where I could list my property to get more bookings, and that would be more specialized in my own like nature chalet thing. So that's where I saw a brilliant opportunity. But I never imagined it'd be that hard to build. And to, at some point you have an idea. It's like making a film. You see a vision, you see an opportunity, but to execute it and to do it, and then to hit COVID when we had just launched.
The timing of it was quite crazy. So I have here, you started working on it on summer 2017, officially started March 2019. And then 1 year later, COVID kicks in as you were going through your fundraising.
Day to day, we launched on March 12th, 2019, and COVID was March 12th, 2020. Wow. So it was kind of crazy. And I had just gotten my first pitch deck done to try to start to raise money, and everything paralyzed. And in Quebec, everybody wanted to leave the city during COVID, right? So the government decided to make it illegal for people to rent chalets for 3 months. From March till June, the market was closed. So, but then summer of 2020 happened. Everybody wanted to go to chalets. And it created a crazy surge. And then in September, same thing. The government reclosed down a lot of the market with red zones. You can't travel. So that led up to a lot of cancellations. But at that point, we had lunch with, because, I first launched We Chalet with 30 properties to my friends on September 2018. And for the official public launch in March 2019, we had about 100 properties. So by the end of that summer, we had probably around 600 properties, something like that. So in the downtime of COVID, we started to really, decided to change the tech of the website to replace it with a new technology, because when we launched, you launch with a beta site, right? With just a beta product to make sure minimum viable product, to make there's traction. So we use that time to launch the new site that you currently see, WeChalet.com. That's the new site that's been online since the late 2020.
Wow. I want to talk a little bit about that period, because I think there's a lot of lessons here for entrepreneurs and operators, because challenges are part of any startup, any business, and you clearly went through some of those challenges back then. What would you say kept you guys going? I mean, you personally, as you're thinking, okay, let's go with this new idea, and then you face this wall of like everything is shut down. Most people, I mean, a lot of people would have quit and said, okay, maybe this is not the right business. Maybe let me go do other things. What do you think kept you going, Dany?
I just see it. There is a need for this platform, and I see a global platform on We Chalet. And even if the numbers are slowly going, they are going up, right? Because the first year, I think we had 1,000% growth. Second year, 500%. And during COVID, we had, I think, 60%. It kind of slowed down because we had so many cancellations, and we changed websites and everything. But for the last 2 years, we have 300% growth year over year. And we're now at close to 2,400 listings on We Chalet. And there's about 100 and 150 listings coming to us, organic growth every month, And why do you think hosts come to We Chalet, and why do you think travelers book with us? They are booking with us right now. Hosts are coming with us because their calendars are not full on VRBO or Airbnb or Booking.com. There's still place to make more money, and they're coming to us, and they are getting bookings with us. So and travelers, they're coming to us instead of all the other platforms, and they're choosing us, because there are people that are looking to see more options on the market right now, and there's not
definitely.
Yeah,
and also, go ahead.
No, but if you look at Canada, okay, it's not just Quebec. Canada is the second biggest country in the world, and we're monopolized by foreign booking sites. All the booking sites are either American or European. So currently, We Chalet is the only emerging 100% Canadian, platform emerging in the country. And Canada is known for nature, for its beauty, for mountains, for rivers. So I feel like I want We Chalet to be as well known as Celine Dion and Cirque du Soleil on the international scene. That's my goal. And it goes with the Canadian platform. It's known for nature. I feel like the brand is the extension of the country. So
yeah, you're definitely on your way to becoming a very recognized brand. You are already a very recognized brand. Every time I talk with an operator in Quebec, they name you guys, and I think you've done a tremendous job when it comes to PR and whatnot. Just before we move on to that, what has worked in terms of your growth, hacking efforts and whatnot, I want to really understand, was there something that you think helped you survive during that difficult period of COVID? Because, for example, as you know, I work with Angel Host, and for us, we got lucky, so to speak, in the sense that we got a lot of clients right before COVID in Florida, where surprisingly, COVID just had the opposite effect, where everyone was going there because there was no restrictions, or even Mexico, right? Even Tulum. I mean, we saw each other in Cancun not too long ago, and as you know, like this place was just the only option for tourism. Everything else was shut down. So that helped us go through those difficult periods. What do you think helped you? I mean, what strategies did you take when it comes to being able to still keep your team on board? Tactically speaking, what allowed you to survive?
Well, different things. I was already used to run We Chalet with barely any revenue, because since I launched, we didn't make much money. So I just kept on going with that pace. And in parallel, because there was COVID, the government created so many grants and programs to give money away, which we got a lot. We qualified for a lot of these grants. And one of them was a big grant of almost $80,000, which allowed me to hire the current CTO that I have. It's been 3 years. Jad's been with us for a while, and he's been very part of this new platform. So there's a lot of things, but at some point it was not enough. And I had to sell my home to reinvest in We Chalet. But my home was a chalet where I was living we bought 8 years ago. And because of COVID, the property tripled in value over, but COVID gave the crazy hit of like it had doubled and now it tripled. So I sold my home and I sold my shares. I had a duplex in Montreal that I had for 10 years with my sister. I sold all my shares to my sister, and I put half of that money into We Chalet. And if I had not done this, everything was falling apart. And because I did this, I have a good friend. His name is Dax Da Silva. He's a founder of like a multi-billion-dollar company in Quebec, which is quite well-known, like Lightspeed. And Dax got into co-investing with me. And then the summer after, it's the whole team that invested with me. My family invested, my CTO, the back-end, front-end team. So, and other people that I knew. So yeah, so altogether, over these years, we've raised close to $900,000 of safe. I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of but and then when you have some money, you can go get loans. BDC will get in or this other program. So yeah, we survived. I have debts with We Chalet, but right now it's like we're getting to a point of break-even point. Next year, we should make more money than what we're spending. And that's very attractive to bigger investors at this point.
Yeah, and I think nowadays it's so important with the current environment. It's no longer just go crazy with growth and figure out profitability like later. You want to have a path towards profitability. You want to make sure that your unit economics makes sense and all of that. And part of the big challenge for a lot of companies comes down to growth. But growth is not a problem for you, man. I mean, people are coming to you organically. Hosts want to be on your platform. You're everywhere. You're signing these massive brand deals with the companies like Air Transat. So tell us a little bit about what's been your philosophy when it comes to just doing PR and doing growth hacking. What has worked? What hasn't worked? And, tell us a little bit about just everything and how you think about the branding and growth aspect of We Chalet.
Yeah, well, first when I've learned from my film to hire like a PR person to promote the project. So from day one, I hired a PR guy, Olivier, who's become a friend of mine, and he's helped me a lot. And he had experience in tourism. He had experience in politics, positioning, and all this stuff. So he was really good to get us great articles in major Canadian newspapers to just launch We Chalet. And once you start to have that kind of press during COVID, another thing that helped us, every single newspaper, radio, TV shows wanted to talk about people wanting to go to chalets. So they started calling me, it's called We Chalet. So we had almost more than 100 articles printed. I think last year was looking at the back of that, about more than 100 articles or radio or TV shows that, talked about us. So, and the more, these media talk about you on Google, the word We Chalet starts spread out. It gives authority to your website as well. So we start to work also on our SEO, on paid ads, Facebook, Google. And, it's like, I don't know if, right now, we know we spend $1 in Facebook ads or Google ads. There's about $1.50 back in revenue for We Chalet. So right now, at some point, you want to reinvest into these strategies. And the more people book with you for the first time, well, the next year, they come back to you. So that piles up with the new customers, and you start to grow even more those both bases. And at the same time, quite often, some ads that are directed to travelers, let's say on Google, we can see in our CRM where the new users are coming from. We see that a new host clicked on an ad for a traveler for a chalet for rent, and he became a host with us. So you start to have some cross-pollination into all these channels.
That's very interesting. And I was going to ask, is it mainly like when it comes to the, say, paid advertising efforts you're doing, are you mainly advertising towards the traveler? Are you mainly advertising towards the host? I know you said that sometimes, the traveler then becomes the host, but is it kind of like the first step for you to first advertise to the traveler, and then the hosts are just coming organically because more and more travelers are in the platform? Like it's that eternal debate of what comes first, supply, demand. I'm just curious to know how you've shifted from when you started. What was first? Were you trying to get more hosts or more travelers? And as you've scaled and where you are right now, where do you find yourself spending more resources, and how do you balance the two? Because you need both of them.
Yeah, you first need properties. First you need a platform. It all starts with tech. And then you need properties, to bring travelers to the properties, hosts, It's not just the properties. Right. You want quality hosts who are up to date and who will respond in a timely manner and give a great experience to the traveler. Because that's a problem we had at some point. You got people that create a listing, they don't care. They put, barely put pricing, a description. All of a sudden the traveler books with that host. The host declines. So we started to create filtering to help hosts on board with us. And right now, if you're a host, we have an entire host onboarding team. If you are on Airbnb, we can import all your properties in We Chalet. We will help you implement your pricing strategies, create your listings, make sure everything is accurate. And we see a direct, impact on the travelers when, the conversions are working because travelers booking, listing is accurate, the host is engaged and is educated, which I learned from Airbnb Secrets. A lot of education in the entire industry needs a lot of education. I think for a lot of more new property managers and new hosts don't quite know everything. So that pays off in the end on both sides of the market. Yeah,
and so how do you handle that education component to your hosts? Is there like a platform, kind of like the Airbnb Secrets, but the We Chalet Secrets that is part of the back end?
I did buy We Chalet Secrets.
Oh, okay. So something's coming up here.
No, but right now we do a lot of right now we have Nicola, who's our host onboarding expert. So he's the one who's doing a lot of personal training, and we also build a lot of help articles and all this way. But right now we don't have a step-by-step on that course. We do help people and validate the listings with them. But of course, it's harder to scale this up, right away. But everything that we put in place now, we start to automate a lot of stuff. So at some point, that's why it's hard to put the base in place. But at some point, it starts to do this because it took so long to put all these stuff, automation and everything. But once the bricks are in place, man, you can't ramp that.
Yeah. Once you have the solid foundations and with the PR and growth capacity that you have, I mean, sky's the limit. Now, tell us more about those growth hacking strategies that have worked, brand deals. You've done a few. What have you learned from going through in terms of those brand deals? What has worked? What hasn't worked? Because I know that it's not always everything is not always beautiful and roses and whatnot. So what could you tell us about some of those experiences working with these large brands?
Actually, it kind of started. The first big brand to approach us was in COVID, and they approached us. We didn't go after them. It was Labatt, a beer company, who also has Budweiser under their wing. And they approached us to do a contest because our community, I think, is something people want to get attached to the lifestyle of like connecting to nature, to outdoors. For me, We Chalet is an outdoors brand. It's like North Face or Patagonia. That's what I built. It's like I want to build it's like an outdoors company ultimately. But so they approached us to do a contest. They bought $35,000 of bookings on We Chalet, and we decided to give a $25 rebate on 850,000 cases of Bud Light beers that were all across the province and in every single stores. It worked in terms of notoriety, but we didn't get that much direct bookings from that. But for us, it cost us nothing, and we sold $35,000 of bookings. They gave away 10 grand prizes of 3,000 each, and we were in every the brand We Chalet, even if it was a small sticker on beer cases, we were there all summer. So it was a win, and for that we created the coupon system. We created it in tech in We Chalet for that. So we were able to reuse it. Right now we use it for different other things, but then came the deal with Air Transat, And We Chalet, we're a startup, so we've been incubated into different incubators in Quebec. And there's one that's called MT Lab. It's a very well-known like tourism incubator. And one of the big partners is Air Transat. And yeah, Air Transat was in 2019 they had started by hotels in Mexico and in Cancun specifically, and they were looking to upsell, because they do all inclusive packages, so they wanted to make more margins also on hotels. So at that point, they were pitching us, the big partners were pitching us their problematics of big companies to startups to see if we could help them in some way. So I went back and I pitched, cool, you're getting the hotels, but you're not getting the short-term rental, which is the Airbnb type properties that everybody wants. I'm like, We Chalet, we can do this. We can go build inventory for you in Mexico and start to really get Canadian travelers to book these type of properties via Air Transat. And the guy, he jumped on me a little later. He's like, Dany, this is amazing. And COVID happened. That deal went on. It was gone for about 2 years. And then, we retook contact together about a year and a half ago. And then we put the deal together. But a deal like that is long to put in place because Air Transat is a super slow step company. And still right now, we're not where we're aiming at where we're going to be with Air Transat. It should be in 2024, where the positionment of We Chalet and Air Transat is going to be different than where it is right now.
Yeah, that's very interesting. No, that's amazing. Now, let's talk a little bit about the way you're thinking in terms of how you want to differentiate yourself from, say, Airbnb, other than in the kind of properties that you're trying to focus on. A lot of people bash on Airbnb, especially professional hosts, for always taking the side of the guest. But I guess let's start with, are you playing that intermediary role as well when it comes to, let's say, claims? Are you having some sort of like process in place or system in place for kind of liability insurance and things of that nature? And if yes, what's your position on how you're trying to be different or similar in certain ways to the way Airbnb has approached this, being the middle person between the host and the guest?
Yeah. No, I feel that's part of my pitch as well. I feel like Airbnb has become too guest centric and they've abandoned the host in the process. And I'm a host myself. I've been a property manager. I was managing about 15 listings before COVID. Now I've put that aside. I still manage the duplex for my sister. But on Airbnb, by the way, because in the city of Montreal, I would not put We Chalet against that. And I'm not interested in going there. But yeah, Airbnb has become very guest-centric. So many hosts are still with them because they're kind of forced to, and they're dependent on it. And there's not that many other options out there. So my goal is to build a host-centric platform because I feel the hosts in a marketplace like ours are your business partners. And if you're not playing equal with your business partners, you got a problem in your relationship. And I feel like, so right now, excuse me, my alarm is going. But yeah, so we only make money when the hosts make money. It's free to list. And if the host makes commission, we make commission. If the host doesn't make commission, We Chalet makes nothing. So right there, because there are some platforms that still take their commission when the hosts all make money. And I don't want to create that kind of a platform on my side. And I feel like if you really take care of the host with the onboarding, with the education, the way the payments and everything, I feel it's going to go back to the guest. The guest's going to have a great time. The host loves to be on your platform. He's educated, so he's up to date, gives a great service to your traveler. So that's my philosophy. And having that in mind, I want to build a host-centric platform that will have tools to help property managers manage their properties in We Chalet and ultimately help them manage their properties on different platforms. That's where I want to evolve ultimately.
I want to go into that point of that vision you have, which we've discussed off camera a couple of times. But before, just so that I understand correctly the business model, are you having a dual commission system, just kind of like Airbnb does it, where you charge the guest, you also charge the host?
Yeah, it's 3% on the host side, and currently that's what it costs us for a credit card. We use PayPal actually right now. We're gonna create new payment options in 2024, but PayPal charges us 3%. So the host pays that commission. It's free to list on We Chalet, and we help them for free to build all their listings and everything, right? So there's no fees there, and the guest will pay 6 to 12% commission So the longer the stay you got, so 31 days or more, you're in a 6% commission, so lower commission. Shorter stay, higher commission, 12%.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. And are you playing also a role in terms of like the air cover type of insurance? Because I feel like a lot of hosts also feel at the same time they have like a hate-love relationship with Airbnb because they're like, oh, I am dependent on them. Sometimes they don't take my side, but then they also feel like it's safer to book there because at least if something goes wrong, well, it can, not be paid out, and it's their decision at the end of the day, Airbnb's decision. But there's a chance that if you do a proper job at, building your case and whatnot, at least there's something that in theory gives a lot of hosts more peace of mind. Are you going in that direction as well, or are you sort of leaving that mediation up to the host and the guest directly for the time being?
We're quite involved in first, it's very minimal when we have problematics, I'd say it's almost maybe 2-3 cases out of 1,000 bookings. So it's not that many. And we've never had ever so far, I'm going to touch some wood somewhere, but we never had, because right now hosts can put their security deposits, they can ask for a security deposit. We automate it for them. So it's never happened so far that we had to go over the security deposit. Quite often it's minimal stuff. And ultimately, yes, right now we don't have it. And you gotta, go back in history, because I've studied quite a bit the history of Airbnb with Airbnb Secrets and all this stuff. But, the first time Airbnb had no insurance at start, it came probably, I think it was in 2013, 2015 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Someone trashed an apartment and the girl started to blog about it, and they decided to pay $5,000 for it. And the CFO was like, no, let's do a $50,000 insurance. And that grew into what it is today. So we have a partner that we signed a deal with them. They will be able to insure us for $5 million in the currency of the country that we do the booking with. So we're intending to put that in place for 2024. And we'll be able to do that right now. We also don't have the validation of IDs in place. And that partner will do that part for us. That said, we've had some frauds on We Chalet. All platforms, every booking site can have some, but we've started to implement detection on our own side, and so we can eliminate the fraud from the start as soon as we catch it. So, we have security measure in place, but of course, as a startup, you can't. It's like you can't build Paris in one night, or 2 years.
And, you got to choose your battles as well.
Yeah. And for, if you look with property managers, We Chalet needs to be integrated with all PMS. We just finished our first integration to HostAway. It's our first PMS integration. We have a whole lineup to integrate with, Guesty and Logify. We integrate also with Price Labs. That was the very first API integration we've done lifetime, but HostAway is the first PMS. So you need to create more features in We Chalet. You need to integrate with all the PMS, and we have a micro team, and so it's a big project.
For sure, no, definitely. Now let's talk a little bit about that vision that you have of also giving your hosts more features and functionalities that would allow them to manage more aspects of their properties than, say, your traditional OTA would allow you to. It's almost as if when we had spoken about it back then, it's almost as if you wanted to build PMS-ish types of features within the OTA itself, but at the same time, you're talking about integrating with PMSs. So what's your vision there? And help us, understand why you think that's needed, which interestingly enough, Airbnb seems to also be, doing with their recent update. So how is it different from what they're doing, and why do you think it's important?
I don't think Airbnb is allowing you to push a price into another platform. I don't think so. Ultimately, I don't think so. Because I feel like Airbnb is trying to keep captive of their of the platform, but hosts do want to go list on other sites. And that's why the PMS ecosystem bloomed in the last 10 years. And there's PMS that are better for smaller inventory, for hosts that have 5 listings. This PMS are good for 50 listings, and there are PMS that are better for like thousands of listings. The big dream, We Chalet should be connected to every single PMS in the world. And we should also have a solution internally for smaller property owners who don't use the big PMS, so that we can still help them to push their prices or maybe communications in We Chalet at a smaller scale. Because if the entire ecosystem of We Chalet is connected to a PMS or our micro PMS, whatever you want to call that, that means the inventory in We Chalet is always accurate. That means pricing is accurate, availability is accurate, and messaging is instantly. Then you have a platform that, like people love to use because they're using Elstow, you're in it. They're using Gessie, you're on it. And the traveler love to use it because they know, I press book and it's like, it's working and it's like instantly. You remove the friction. It's all about removing frictions between both sides.
So if I understand this correctly, for like when it comes to targeting the large players, the large property managers, the large operators, that you're getting through the connections you're building to those larger PMSs. But you're saying for the smaller ones, there's smaller hosts, 5 properties or less, well, they probably don't have a PMS. So you're going to build some, like you said, like a mini PMS there within We Chalet that they can use. Now, the part that I want to understand from that model that you're describing is you said, and you seem to take a lot of pride in the fact that you would actually want We Chalet to allow pushing rates and pushing availability to other OTAs. But I hear that, and that sounds counterintuitive to me in the sense that you're now allowing your host to book elsewhere. And so you're not monetizing on that, right? You're not monetizing on unless you're charging just a fixed fee for the PMS itself, the mini PMS itself. So what are you thinking there in terms of why it makes sense for you to give them that openness to say, just synchronize it, make it easy to synchronize with other OTAs, as opposed to taking the approach that Airbnb is taking, which is more like you said, let's just keep you captivated into a same ecosystem.
Yeah, but they don't keep them captivate in the ecosystem. Hosts want to list. Does Angel Host just list their listing just in Airbnb?
No, definitely not.
No. So host wants to list on multiple platforms. So why go against that will of property managers and hosts? So, if there is one thing I'd like to be able to centralize is at least the pricing, because that's the biggest problem for hosts that are not on other PMS and they are on VRBO and Airbnb. Is like their pricings are all over the place and the availability is all over the place. So if we can just help them to centralize just the pricing in We Chalet, you change your price, it changes it in Airbnb, We Chalet or VRBO. This is a win-win for everybody. You want to be on these platforms. I'm not going to stop you. And we're going to still make a micro fee out of that money that we would make anyways. So that's the vision I have. We'll see. I mean, it's a good thing to talk about it openly in the public. I don't know. But I'd love to have some sort of a better use case of that in 2024.
I think that's very interesting. And I want to wrap things up with just high level vision of where you're going. I mean, we talked about this product specific thing, but more than that, in general, I think you guys are also in the middle of a fundraising process right now. So tell us a little bit about that. Is it still open? Is there still a chance for people to come in? Why should they invest? I mean, of course, you've shared many reasons already, and I think just the commitment that you have and the fact that you've gone all in, and that you've gone all in despite the circumstances, and you have people that believe in the vision, and I think that in and of itself. I mean, you when you're investing in a company, you're investing in the entrepreneur many times. But let's wrap up here. We have 4 minutes. Tell us about that round and what can we expect to see from We Chalet in the coming years?
Yeah, we've launched a front funder campaign. We got about $100,000 so far raised, and all our hosts, our people, can invest into the campaign. There's I can give you the link if you want. People can go and see it. There's a video and everything that's there. And where we want to go, we met in Mexico. We're going back to Mexico in a week or so because we want to start to grow inventory in the Tulum, Cancun area. There's a lot of Quebecers that go there in the winter with Transat. It's a hot destination. So we want to start to grow inventory in different destinations. But for sure, when you grow We Chalet, we need to be at first specific. We need maybe to build a few hundred properties into a destination, then start to bring travelers to them. And then we can grow strategically other destinations. So if there are some property managers that are listening, like Angel Host, who has like 300 properties in Cancun, you're using Guesty, which we will be integrated to in 2024. If you have interest into ultimately listing in We Chalet, if you have a fit with your inventory with We Chalet, we can already put you in pipelines of like waiting lists if you have a PMS that we're not integrated with. And if you don't have a PMS, that's not a block. It's not a blocker to be on We Chalet because there are some people that have like 10, 20 properties and they don't use PMS. So we can help them list on our website.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure to put that link for the campaign. I would encourage anyone listening to this to have a look and support because whenever you come across someone that's so committed, I think we're going to look back a few years from now. We're going to say, wow, look at everything. Look at this huge success. And also the numbers are there to back it up in terms of the growth metrics you were mentioning earlier and whatnot. So, man, it's always a pleasure, Dany. I wish we could keep going for hours and hours here because I'm sure we would have many more topics to cover. But yeah, man, it's been a pleasure and thank you so much for taking the time. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. I don't know if I'll see you next in Montreal or in Mexico, but wherever that may be, I hope we can talk again soon and maybe have you on for our next session down the line.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for the invite. And yeah, let's meet in Mexico. Way better in the winter to meet there.
Yeah, better than, yeah, that's it then. All right. Thank you, Dany. Have a good one.
Bye.